We are in Amrutanubhav, chapter 5, verse number 13, and the thought of that Sat Chit Anand are the terms used for cancelling off Asat, Achit, and Dukkham. That here he says both of them are valid only so long as one is in the area of parokshata, indirect knowledge. Meaning, where is parokshata? Parokshata means objective approach. Where is objective approach? In the mind. Till then, these are valid. But are you the mind? That you have to conclude. The moment one understands that what is meant is the pure I, thereafter, whichever words are used, they have no more significance. When the four speeches are transcended, then alone the truth is revealed. So, we have no choice, we have no option. What is that? We do not have the option of doing sadhana without the body. We have the body, we can't escape, and this body is an impediment. Is it? I'm questioning. Is body an impediment?
No, Swamiji.
Then what is it?
It's the vehicle to do the sadhana, as you said before.
Oh, yes, oh, it's only through this body we can come to recognize who we are. Then what is the problem? If body is not the problem, what is the problem? Then why are we not able to realize who we essentially are? If you say body is not the problem, then what is the problem?
Mind.
Mind is also not the problem. Because mind is part of body. Body, mind, intellect, they are all, it's the body only.
Thoughts.
Huh?
Thoughts.
Thoughts are in the mind only. They are also not a problem.
There is no problem, Swami.
Good, very good, there is no problem. But there is an imagined problem, isn't it? That's why we are not realizing. That's why you are not being the infinite that we essentially are. Then what is the obstacle which is stopping us? If body is not, see, the world is not a problem. Why? It is not doing anything to you. The senses are not the problem because they are illuminating the world, the sounds, the sights, the smells. They are not, senses are not attached to anything. Mind is not attached to thoughts also. Thoughts are also coming and going. Waker, dreamer, sleeper also coming and going. They have got no problem. Then where is the problem? The problem is in this imagined attachment. Attachment is the problem. Body is not a problem. The problem is I am equal to only this body. That is the problem. The truth is you are all that there is. You are infinite. And what have you crystallized yourself into? I am only this body. This connection has to be broken. And for that, all this sadhana, explanation is going on. This explanation will gel within us only when we complement it with some sadhana. And that sadhana, he says here, is the four speeches, Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. What will these four bring about? They'll bring about purification. They will make your mind thinner and thinner. Right now it is crystallized into individuality. because individuality is in the mind only. So, by practice of Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para, from manyness we come to duality. From duality we jump into oneness and recognize the oneness. But that faculty, that possibility, that opportunity to jump from duality to oneness is not available as long as the status of reality is appropriated to the world which includes this body, breath, mind, intellect. And as long as we give this a sense of reality that I am only this, till then it becomes very, very difficult to make that jumpless jump into the self. And when we purify and thin out our mind, then it is as natural a glide as it is to glide into sleep from manyness of thoughts, from body identification, gliding into sleep, no thoughts and no body identification. That easy, that simple it is to glide from manyness and body identification, dropping everything into yourself and be yourself. It's that simple. But this attachment will not allow. So find a way, continue the sadhana of Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para and keep listening to satsangs. Someday it will click. Now this thought that Sat, Chit and Anand were used for cancelling Sat, Chit, Asat, Achit and Dukham is now being concluded. Evam Satchidanandam Atmaha Aisa Shabda To Anyavyavriti Siddha Vachakanave. In this manner, the statement that self is existence, knowledge, bliss is to mean that it is not the opposite nature. Therefore, Satchidanand is not the meaning of Atman. True. Satchidanand is not the meaning of Atman. Atman is self-knowing. Nobody can know it Atman through words. No one can know Atman through concepts. No one can know Atman through duality. So when we are using any word, here the example Jnaneshwar Maharaj has taken is Satchidanand. It is only to cancel the opposite. And similarly, Nitya, Anitya, Shuddha, Ashuddha, Swatantra, Aswatantra, Mukta, Amukta. In this manner, the statement that Atman is existence, knowledge, bliss is only intended to mean that it is not of the opposite nature, or in other words, Satchidananda is the limitation of the words on the absolute truth. So in other words, any word used for that infinite Brahman is an abuse. Gali hai gali. Because nothing can stick to it. Words are limited, and limited words they may talk about infinity. The word infinity, what it represents, what it indicates, can never be known by that word or the one who is uttering that word. You cannot objectively know what is infinity. You cannot objectively know what is Sat or Chit or Anand, etc. Cannot. It is not possible. Why? Because what you are seeking is not other than you. Where will you seek it outside? It is not separate from you. Therefore, all these words, they by nature are limited, they by nature are finite. The word infinity is finite. The word Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, it's a finite sentence. It begins and it ends. But what it is indicating is beyond the words. So why are these words used? To give you direction, to give you an idea, to give you a pointer for meditation, to give you whilst listening to these statements of truth or these words without conclusion, because we are an individual, because we are in the world, we are considering ourselves to be the body, to be the seeker. So we take support of these words and jump into that infinite that we essentially are. Just like a pole vaulter uses the words to reach the heights and then gives up the pole. Just like you think of the sleep at night and when it has matured, then you drop the thought of the sleep. I am using the word you drop. It gets dropped automatically. Same way. All these words cannot stick to the absolute truth that is our essential nature. Atma is another such word which is used to convey the negation of anatma. Again, why the word Atma is used? Self, not self, Atma, Anatma, to negate the Anatma. And if you read the Vivek Chudamani, we read the Tattva Bodh or Atma Bodh, there what is Anatma is totally defined. It's actually defined. What is Anatma? And so recognize that which is changing is anatma, that which is limited is anatma, that which is conditioned is anatma, that which is finite is anatma, that which is conditioned by space-time objectivity is anatma, that which is born and dies is anatma, that which comes and goes is anatma, that which appears but is not there is anatma. How many more? You can keep going. It defines and then it categorizes that this anatma begins from avidya. You can call anatma as avidya kama karma, or you can call anatma as the panchakoshas. And where did these panchakoshas come? Identification with these panchakoshas. These panchakoshas, they are coming and going, they are changing, so they are anatma. And in this way, the word atma is used to cancel anatma. The sense, anatma, the sense of otherness. So, what is anatma? Another meaning of anatma, sense of otherness. It has no use in itself. It has only one meaning, to negate the sense of not I. So how long you have to hold on to Atma? Till the sense of otherness is not dissolved completely. Sense of otherness is for whom? Is it for? It is for whom the sense of otherness? The sense of otherness is for the individual, for the ego. Ego thrives on otherness, on differences. That is its diet. but it wants satisfaction. It wants peace. It wants tranquility. So we give him this direction. That's why it goes to sleep every night. So when it says here, it has only one meaning, to negate the sense of not I. So are we doing the discrimination of Atma, Anatma, Vivek between self and not self? To know the self. No, how can you know the self? You are already the self. How can you know the self? This idea that I want to know myself, I want to meditate on myself, I want to realize myself, initially it sounds very nice and it is necessary also. But as you become purified, as the attachment becomes weaker and weaker, as understanding what the scriptures are saying, like this particular sentence, you start being available to the connotation of those words, then you will realize, Arey, Bekoof, I'm trying to realize. No, I'm not trying to realize. Then what I have to do? First become convinced, initially convince only. Be convinced that by thinking, by doing anything, and activities where manasa, vacha, kaya. So, by doing any activity which involves doership, by no doing, meaning not by doing anything at body level, not by speaking about it, not by thinking about it, you can come to know the reality. Why? It is not an unresult, it is already there. How can you create something? How can you know something which is already there? You can know something which you don't know, then you come to know. But you are already the self. So become convinced of this, that yes, at the moment I have mumukshutvam. At this moment, be true to yourself. That I have mumukshutvam, I want to know myself, I want to realize myself in this life, preferably now. And realization is not a result of any activity, not of activity at the body level, speech level, or the thought level. Then what I have to do? Now, then how can I stay without thinking? Oh, that is the problem. I can't stay without thinking. Thinking is possible only where there is sense of otherness, where there is duality, there is thinking possible. So now what we have to do, if this thinking, with this mind, which is where the thinking is going on, this mind is becoming an impediment in me being the self, then let's re-educate, reform, reprogram the mind, purify the mind. So for this mind, then the words Atma and Anatma are given, told you discriminate with it. And how long the mind has to keep, because the ego is also a part of the mind only, no? Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. So sometimes the memories come and hijack, sometimes the old concepts come and hijack, sometimes the ego becomes arrogant. So this mind has to be dissolved. So how do we dissolve the mind? How do you dissolve the mind when you go to sleep every night? If you can contemplate on that and work out a way for yourself, that will be the best. But if it sounds very simple to go to sleep and you want to complicate your life, then come to scriptures. Then come to scriptures. You will thoroughly play with your mind till till you say it is enough. See? So it is the mind which is the impediment. And it is in the mind where there is subject and object. In the mind, the concept of Atma, Anatma is there. Even though Atma is not a concept. But right now, we don't have a direct knowledge of that. We only know it through thoughts, through studies. And yes, we know that we are always. All the waking, dream, deep sleep keep coming and going, but we are always there. But we are not able to be that aparokshatvena. We are not having the direct abidance in it, even though we are that. So, why? Because for that, silence is required, for that, unclutching from the mind is required, and that mind is not allowing. And ego has taken the ownership of the mind, that this is my mind, this is who I am. See? In the mind, the idea that I am the body is there, the whole world is there, the relation. So the whole gamut which is stopping us from being ourselves, at this moment it seems as if it is the mind. Therefore, we have to address the mind. And we start, and these are the ways by which you think of the sleep. How long do you, in this chapter only he said, how long do you think of the sleep? Till all the thoughts which take you away from sleep, which keep you distracted from sleep, which all those thoughts which do not allow you to go to sleep become neutralized, become impotent. Till then, keep thinking of sleep. So same way, so what is that? That is discrimination. You are thinking of sleep and you are not thinking of no sleep. The opposite of sleep is waking. You are not thinking of waking, remaining awake. Similarly, here the discrimination between Atma and Anatma. How long you have to think of Atma? How long you have to think of I? How long you have to think of the conscious principle? As long as the Asat, Achit and Dukkham are there, till then you have to think. Once they become neutralized, once they become ineffective, once you are not thinking of them and you are not disturbed by them. See, we cannot eradicate them from the mind. Just like sleep is a state where you dissolve the thoughts of waking, you go dive into sleep, but then again afterwards the thoughts again come back when you wake up. So in the mind also you cannot dissolve all the thoughts. You cannot permanently. Then what will happen? You can subside them, dissolve them temporarily by focusing on something, and that's what we just need, a window of opportunity to be ourselves. And once we have known ourselves, after that we don't care whether the thoughts are there or not there. Then we don't care, because now I know. So what happened when you went to sleep? For that 4, 5, 6 hours, you had that window of opportunity, you merged into sleep, refreshed yourself, and now you are again back. Again when you wake up, open your eyes, again the world is there, again the thoughts are there, the mind clicks into action. Same way here also. So we keep thinking of the Atma or Sat Chit Ananda as long as Asat, Achit and Dukkham are valid, are available. So till then we keep thinking of Atma, till they are neutralized, till they are dissolved. The example Jnaneshwar Maharaj took was just like, how long will the flame burn as long as there is oil? Or how long will a camphor burn? As long as there is a camphor to be burned. So, what is the fuel for the flame? The camphor itself. What is the fuel for discrimination? What is the fuel for remaining focused on Atma? The fuel is the Anatma. But when there is no Anatma, then you don't need to contemplate on the Atma also. It will automatically. Watch yourself at night when you go to sleep. Do you say that now I give up thinking of sleep also because there is nothing disturbing me? Do you come to this conclusion? No. When the last thought of the waking goes away, is neutralized, then the thought of sleep also vanishes along with it. So how long do you contemplate on who am I? As long as not I is available. When the not I is dissolved, then the I thought also dissolves. Then what remains? Only the self remains. This is the paddhati. This is the methodology. Now you understand and jump into it. So we are not here to realize. So when you come to this point with this understanding, what is the conclusion? That realization is not some object to be gained. Realization is our nature. Then all we are doing as a way of sadhana is dissolve the mind, dissolve the sense of otherness, dissolve the attachment, dissolve the identification with anatma. That's what we are doing. Once it is dissolved, what remains is you. So all these words such as Sat, Chit and Ananda, Atma, etc. are mere noises. They are. Because we read scripture after scripture, they are only words. And if those words are not bringing about the dissolution of the mind, then they are mere words. Atma is not affected by these words. The truth cannot be defined by the Vachya Vachaka object and name relationship. Atma is not an object that can be understood by the term Sat Chit Ananda. So Atma is not something that can be understood. Because Atma cannot be caught by the words, and Atma is aprapya manasasaha, cannot be comprehended by the mind, cannot be caught by the mind as a concept, as an idea, as an imagination, as a simile, as a reference. No. Atma is as it is. Then this whole prakriya is only for the mind. It's not for the Atma. Then why do scriptures introduce the subject Atma? Because you want happiness, no? So they are showing you the way that your nature is that of happiness. You don't need to seek happiness. Then why are we miserable? Because you are accepting yourself only to be this body. That's why you are miserable. So dissolve that identification and be the all-pervasive one. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. That which can never be ours, we have accepted that as ours. Because world is continuously changing, we buy property, we make relationships, and we say, but they are always changing. It's not the same person. Body is always changing, we say this is I. Breath is changing, without breath I cannot live. Mind is continuously changing, I'm intelligent, I am understand this and that and everything. Waking, dream, deep sleep are always changing, but I am only the waker. So, how much wrong conclusions we have accepted and are at the mercy of those wrong conclusions. So we have to. So when we come to the scriptures show us the mirror. Hey, look, these are the wrong conclusions that you are living by. Change. Otherwise, dash dash dash. That also very nicely it puts. So don't try to understand the self. It is beyond understanding. Right now when I am talking, don't try to understand it. Our attention should be in dissolution of our mind. Examples are now given to illustrate how useless are words in talking about the absolute truth. Jnaneshwar Maharaj is saying, Surya tseni prakashe je kahi jad abhase taya to givase Surya kahi. The inert objects that are illumined by the sun, can they ever illumine the sun? Not possible. So now while we are listening to this example, change the position. You are the sun and you are illuminating. Are you not illuminating? The concepts, the thoughts, the imaginations, the feelings, the breath, the body, the world. Are you not illuminating? No, I can't see any light. Why? The eyes are able to see the sun means eyes must be powerful, more powerful than the sun. See? That is your experience at this moment also. The inert objects illumined by the sun reflect back the light. But can the reflected light from the inert object illumine the source of the original light, the sun? Can the reflected moon in the waters illuminate the moon? No. Can the sun reflected in the mirror illuminate the sun? No. Because there is with regards to inert objects, there is a certain capacity, and that capacity, what is the capacity? The effect can never illuminate the cause. The effect cannot ever come to know the cause. You see? Then how come eyes are illuminating the sun? If that rule is taken, that objects of the world are not able to illuminate the sun, the reflected sun or moon in the waters or in the mirror is not able to reflect the sun or the moon, then how come is this body not part of the inert world? Yes, it is part of the inert world. Then is this eye not inert? Yes, it is inert. Is the mind not inert? Yes, it is the inert. We are not denying. Then who is illuminating the physical sun outside? If the rule is for everything, then why? How come here the rule has changed? How come this cup of water is not able to illuminate the light which it is reflecting? How come? In the light of the sun, I am seeing my body and I am able to see the sun, unlike other inert objects. Because this inert object is infused, or through it there is an intelligent principle, which is the Bap of the sun, son of the sun, father of the sun. And that is, call it self, call it Atma, whatever you call it, doesn't matter. Without which the mind cannot function, without which the senses cannot function. So it is not the eyes are seeing, illuminating the sun. Eyes are only equipment. The one who is expressing through that is someone subtler than the sun, and therefore it is able to illuminate. See? So watch this and be in wonderment. अरे वाह, ये तो कभी देखा ही नहीं था हमने ऐसे. हाँ, सच बात है. Sun illuminates the whole world, but I illuminate the sun. Wow, I am greater than the sun. Arrogance. But the fact is that even if you come to this conclusion, I illuminate the sun, it's okay. Then naturally, itch will begin. Then who am I? Which one am I really? Am I the seer? Am I the hearer? Etc. Am I the thinker? Am I the subject, which is in opposition to object? Or am I the eternal I? But I don't know the eternal I. If you come to this point as a result of contemplation, purification, etc., then words of these masters, then they gel. In the same way, the words Satchidananda and Atma, etc., are in themselves inert. Words are inert. What are words? Words are grossified thoughts. Thoughts are also inert. Why? They come and they go. They are not permanent. Whatever comes and goes is inert. Whatever is temporary is inert. Do you come and go? No. So you are the infinite one. How can finite illuminate the infinite? Not possible. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. So, the words Satchid, Ananda and Atma, etc. are themselves inert. It is possible to utter them only because of the light of consciousness. So, as I said before, the senses, thoughts, etc., concepts are able to happen within the equipment only because there is light of consciousness. If a person is dead, there is no concepts, there is no feelings, there is no breath, there is no seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, isn't it? So what has happened there? That light of consciousness, that Atma, is not able to reflect in the body and infuse it with life. It's not that the Atma infuses. In the presence of Atma, the Prakriti automatically gets infused. But because of the nature of Prakriti, what is the nature of Prakriti? It comes into existence, it becomes strong, and then it starts becoming weak and eventually goes out of existence. Isn't it? That is its journey. Birth, growth, disease, decay and death. Call it thought, call it body, call it emotions, call it concepts, call it waking, call it dream, call it sleep, birth, growth, disease, decay and death. Okay, in deep sleep and all there is no disease, decay, but it begins, it reaches its peak and then it comes down. Same thing you see with full moon and no moon. Same thing you see with eclipses. Same thing. Everything in this world is going through that journey only. So when it starts going on its journey of unmanifestation, unmanifestation is what? Its inability to reflect the light of consciousness. That's all it is. It will happen to this body also. So before it happens, get out of the cyclical life, get out of the jadatva, get out of the identification and recognize who you essentially are. It is possible to utter them only because of the light of consciousness. That being so, how can they illumine their origin called the pure Atma Tattva? So I already explained this. That being so, meaning if if the words are themselves by nature finite, are jad, are changing, how can they illuminate their own source? How can they illuminate their own source? Not possible. Another example is given. Te vizene teze vache si vachyata suze te vacha prakashije he ke ahe. In the same way, that because of which the speech is able to speak, how can the speech describe the very enlivener of the speech? Kenopanishad Shrotrasya Shrotram Chakshush Chakshuhu Pranasya Pranaha. What is the eye of the eye? What is the ear of the ear? Can the eye come to know the seer? No. Can the ear come to know the hearer? No. Similarly, the mind, the thinker, can he come to know the thinker? Can the thoughts come to know the thinker? Not possible. Yet that attempt is made. Shrotrasya Shrotram, Pranasya Pranaha, so on. That because of which the speech is able to speak, how can the speech describe the very enlivener of that speech? What is that which makes us speak and does not allow a dead man to speak? That is the light of consciousness. And it is not that the light of consciousness has entered us and has not entered the dead man, or this cup or this bottle. It's not like that. Just like electricity doesn't say that, this bulb is 10 watts, why I am only 10 watts, I am infinite, I want to express infinity through this 10 watt bulb. What will happen? What will happen? Fuse. There will be a burnout. Why? This equipment is incapable of expressing even 100 watts out of the same bulb. It will blow, it will blast, or it will go short, or something will happen. It will melt away. So we have to make another bulb which has the capacity of expressing 100 watts of electricity, or electricity as 100 watts, and then it is okay, isn't it? So that dead body is incapable of reflecting the consciousness anymore, whereas we are able to reflect the consciousness. Now see that reflected consciousness also when it was young, when we had just started the journey, it was carefree, it was happy for no reason. Then as it grew, as we reached our youth, it was at its peak, full of possibilities, full of future. And today, today, pain everywhere. It's countdown, it's starting the countdown. So that is the nature of the body, of the mind. It will do that if you don't do anything with it. So instead of going in that direction of countdown and becoming depressed and becoming a problem to yourself and others, let's rejuvenate this mind and recognize that forget this body. Just like electricity is not worried if one bulb is fused, it continues. Even if you don't take electricity, if you take the principle of light, light is also not affected if one bulb is fused. It continues to express. The principle of light is not limited only to one bulb. Similarly, this life principle is not limited to one body. Similarly, the consciousness. So either you come to this discovery within yourself that you are not the ego, you are not the jiva, but you are the jiva bhava. Jiva is the individual light. Jiva bhava is the principle of light. If you say I am a jiva, I am a soul, then you are individual bulb, individual light, which is identified with one bulb. But if you say jiva bhava, it is a principle. What is the principle? Life expressing through an equipment that is a phenomena which is going on. It is a common phenomena for everyone. It is happening in you also, him also. Only individuality comes only when we decide that we are only this body, but now our attention is going to the principle. That's why we keep coming to the principles. So Jiva Bhava, if you come to Jiva Bhava, correct? You are such are siddhas who have come to this Jiva Bhava. But there is one more step ahead. And what is that? To come to recognize you are the electricity, which the individual light cannot come to know the electricity, the principle of light, that also cannot come to know the electricity. But electricity is, you can't see it, you can't, but it is there. So this is our journey. So where are we? We are in virtual reality, father, mother, daughter, sister. Then what do? We come back to Mithyatma, body. I am this body, breath, mind, intellect. Then by grace we come to know we are the self, but we don't know. Okay, who am I? We start contemplating on that. And if it is too difficult, if we are still taking too many supports of picture, supports of name, supports of our imagination of reality, then what will happen? You will come to the Jiva Bhav. Instead of the soul, that I am a soul, you will come to the total soul. Who is the soul, total soul of the whole creation? Who is the soul of the whole creation? The Ishvara. Okay. What will be the soul of all the individuals in our dream? Suppose they were listening to this lecture. Suppose this lecture is going on in the dream. Actually, it is going on in the dream only. Huh? But suppose in our actual dream, if we are dreaming, and we want to go from Jiva to Jiva Bhav, from being a Jiv, an individual in the dream, we want to go to the principle of reflected consciousness. What is that which is reflecting in and through all the living beings in the dream? What is that which is the Adhar, the substratum of all the inert objects in the dream? What is the soul of everything and every person in the dream? Mind. Mind is the material, and through the mind, because mind as we know it right now, what is soul? Consciousness plus memories is mind, isn't it? Sorry, consciousness plus memory is soul. Consciousness plus vasanas, consciousness plus subconscious impressions, consciousness plus memories, whichever way you put it, is equal to soul. So we have an idea that when this body goes away, this soul will go. So that consciousness with memories, that soul, that principle. But what is that principle? That will be the individual with memories. Then what will be the total soul? That will be the mind, because it is in the mind. Is the mind attached to any person in the dream? No. Is the mind have a rag dvesh with anyone in the dream? No. Who is like that? In our waking, who is like that? It is the Ishvara. So either you move from Jiva to Jiva Bhav, or bypass Jiva Bhav and come straight to electricity, straight to be, the infinite one. Even if you come to Ishvara principle, the total, it doesn't matter, it's okay. It's okay. From Ishwar Advayavad, which is our Kashmiri Shaivism, the infinite and the phenomena are eternal happening, are eternal. The phenomena is also eternal. And what is the phenomena? Manifestation and unmanifestation. What is the phenomena? That one Paramashiva, the phenomena is expressing as Shiva Shakti. Then Shiva Shakti, Shiva remains the constant, and Shakti then goes through manifestation and unmanifestation, expansion and contraction. The flux is in the Shakti. And what does the Shiva principle do? He reflects If one is becoming many, then he reflects through the many. Just as a woman is one, but because she is playing different roles, the woman reflects through all the different roles. Then each one calls her by different names. One reflection of the moon in the water, only one reflection, but many waves, many sparkles. That one reflection alone is expressing as many sparkles. One Shiva alone is reflecting as the Prakriti multiplies. This phenomena is continuous, and then after it reaches its peak, then it starts collapsing. We saw in the Shiva Shakti Samavesh, isn't it? So allow the phenomena to go on that way. So whether you don't remain at the Jiva level, don't remain as a soul. Come to the Jiva Bhava, which is common. Jiva is individual. Jiva Bhava is not individual. Jiva Bhava is the common principle. And what is Jiva Bhava? Reflection of consciousness through an equipment. It's a principle. So whether I have one bucket or 1,000 buckets, the sun will reflect in all of them. But one bucket says, "Oh, I am the one which is in this bucket, and I am the first one." And what about others? So instead of identifying with this form, we are coming to the principle. That is Jiva Bhava. Anyway, enough of that. In the same way, how can the speech describe that light because of which the speech is able to speak? The organs of speech are able to utter and manifest as speech. What speech cannot reveal, but what reveals speech, know that as alone as Brahman. This is from our Kenopanishad. Can the words, the Vaikhari, Shabda, ever be able to tell the real meaning of the truth? Can speech describe that which illumines speech? No. The speech can never illumine the illuminator of speech. It's not possible. The effect can never come to know the cause. Cause is always more pervasive than the effect. Effect, the waves, cause the ocean. Ocean is more pervasive than the wave. Gold, the cause, ornament, the effect. Gold is more pervasive than one ornament. Mud, the cause, pot, the effect. Mud is more pervasive. It's everywhere than one pot. Similarly, the conscious principle, the one because of whom the speech is able to express, that one, either you take it as a principle or you take it as the self, is the same, is more pervasive, or principle will be at the level of mind. Self is not a principle. Principles are possible only in phenomena. So what is that because of which the speech is possible? Mind. If mind is not there, speech is not possible. If mind is not there, seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting is not possible. So the cause of the senses, their ability is dependent. They are the effects and their cause is the mind, because mind expanded, mind grossified is called the 10 senses, 5 organs of action and 5 organs of perception. Mind expanded is this 10. So how can these 10 ever come to know who their father is, who their source is? Not possible. Similarly, what does mind do? Mind thinks, multitude of thoughts. How can thoughts come to know what is that because of which they are expressing? They cannot come to know. Object can never come to know the subject. Object can never come to know the subject. And this is what we are trying all the time. We want to change our husband, we want to change our wife, we want to change our children, we want to give sanskar to our children, we want to improve the world. Not possible. You improve yourself. And automatically, as you become calm, cool, collected, expanded within yourself, whether you come to Jiva Bhav or you come to the ultimate reality, be the ultimate reality, automatically around you everything will start changing. For whom? Not for you, for other people. For other people. But see how inverted our approach is. Our approach is improve the world. Our approach is improve all the people whom we know. We have to improve ourselves. Our focus should be totally on the self. And what is improvement of the self? Dissolution of the mind, non-reactive life, living a life without raga dvesh, ever be available to the constant principle in and through our daily life. See? And how do we change others? Only by words. Do this, don't do that. अरे you speech use करनी है तो अपने आप को याद दिलाओ बार बार. Truth can never become the object of knowledge. विशो नाही कोणाही जया प्रमेयत्वची नाही तया स्वप्रकाशा काही प्रमाण होए. Which authority can establish the existence of that which cannot become an object of knowledge, since it is not an object but it is the self-effulgent self? Which authority? There is only one authority which talks in detail, in depth, compassionately guiding us, and that is the scriptures. They talk about the self, isn't it? Puranas talk about God, etc., etc. But it is the scriptures. It is only found in Sanatana Dharma. It is these scriptures. They said you have to give us up also when you are face to face with that which we are talking about. You give us up. Don't hold on to us. Why? Yato vacho nivartante. That truth which we are pointing you out through the words is beyond the words. So drop attachment to us. Be ready to give it up. Which authority can establish the existence of that? No authority can establish. And yet, we study scriptures. Why? Because within this creation, these scriptures are the only ones. The Vedas, the Upanishads, are the only ones who guide us in such a manner that they are ready to be dissolved by themselves. They are ready to be dissolved. They don't want to maintain their existence. Who? The scriptures. And what is this truth which the scriptures are talking about? Which cannot be objectified. Cannot be objectified. Means, like I am seeing you on the screen, you cannot see the self as separate to yourself. You cannot see the self as separate to yourself. And if it is not something which you can see as separate to yourself, then what is it? Then how can it be known? Only it knows itself. It is self-illuminating. It is self-effulgent. It knows itself. It illumines itself. No other object of this changing world can ever illuminate. Who can certify the existence of that which cannot become an object of knowledge? Because it is not an object. Because subject can never become an object. And yet we say, what is that? When we do this Abhay Mudra, the self becomes aware of its own nature. We give the example, let the vision try to illuminate the eyes themselves. Let the mind think of its own source. We say these exercises are there. But what happens in that? All objectivity, all multiplicity dissolves. Meditation on an object is an exertion. Dropping the objectivity in meditation is effortless being. So when we imagine that I have to meditate, then I meditate in the third eye, I meditate in the Kanthaku, I meditate in the heart. If I give a location to the self, then it becomes hard, brings headache, it brings about jada meditation. Because who are you? Infinite in nature. But because of your old habit of associating something in order to focus, now where have you found a place to focus? Within the body. So which means first you have to keep the body identification. The body has to be there. So where have you dropped the body? How will body disidentification take place? If you are selecting a point in the third eye or in the Kanthaku or in the heart. No, I sit in meditation and in the meditation I do it. But there you are imagining your form. It's still body identification. Before it was gross, now it is subtle. No, I focus on the Lord's form. That is a smart one. So I focus on the heart of the Lord, I focus on the feet of the Lord, I focus on the eyes of the Lord. But what is Lord? When you are saying, I focus on his eyes or focus on his heart or focus on his feet, that is also a form for you. Again, body identification. Okay, now only one difference. It is not a individual body, it is the total principle now, total form. Because that's the connotation that you have given to that particular form. That this form represents all that there is. You have got no experience. You have got no experience that that photograph of Narayana on the wall represents the total creation. You have got no experience. You only hope. You only imagine. You want to live your life at the mercy of imagination? Or come to the self. There is no imagination with regards to self. You know you are. You can have doubts about God, but you know you are. You know self is. You know consciousness is. Come to know that consciousness. Meditation on an object is exertion. So you thinking of the feet and the eyes, your attention goes to the eye, the eyes, and when you focus on the eyes, your attention goes to the feet. You want to chant Om Namah Shivaya and the mind is saying Nahi Nahi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then you come to Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, then it's Om Gam Ganpate Namah. Arey, abhi to shant baith ja. So it's lot of hard yaka when we focus our attention on some object. Object meaning that which is conditioned by space-time objectivity. We focus our attention on some space, some location. We put our attention that we have to do it for so long, or I have to do 20 malas every day. Forget 20 malas. One mala used to be, the fingers used to hurt and throat is going and the back is, the sleep is coming. After 10 mantras, the sleep used to come. And 20 malas, forget it. Exertion we are talking about here. And so, dropping the objectivity in meditation. How can you drop the objectivity in meditation? Either you practice Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para and choose the goal intelligently. Choose the goal intelligently. Drop the objectivity in meditation is effortless being. Meaning, what is meditation? Meditation is dropping the mind. All objectivity is in the mind alone. So dropping objectivity means dropping the mind. Dropping the duality. So come to be. And once you come to be, the mind will again come back because that is its nature. But once you have come to know directly who you are, then mind is also in the definition of I. That you don't see mind as an obstacle. You don't see mind as a problem. Why? From the standpoint of the self, there is nothing called mind. From the standpoint of that infinite, objectivity is not possible only. Lord Shiva doesn't see Shakti as separate to himself. You see Shiva and Shakti as separate because of your obsession with objectivity, your obsession with duality. That one Paramashiva alone became Shiva Shakti. Because there are two, because there are two now, they will keep fighting. I can't live without you, my dear. Don't leave me. Nothing. Where are we? Page 294. There are two types of subject, absolute and relative. I already spoke about it, but let's again. They are like the two birds on the tree of Karma Phala referred to in the Mundaka Upanishad, those Uparna, Sayuja, Sakhaya. One bird, the relative subject, hops from fruit to fruit, tastes, enjoys or suffers. The second, the absolute subject, sits quiet observing the experiencer, the experienced fruits and the experience. Is that not your position? Is that not your position at this moment? Someone tell how? What I am referring to? That is that not your experience? Explain to me. I am dumb.
The self and the non-self.
No,
Self.
explain. Don't talk in abstract. Tell me how.
How, like when we have a happy or a sad feeling, we are feeling about it. The individual, the body or the individual self feels that happiness or the sadness. Whereas the consciousness, the principle itself, is focused on not affecting with that. It comes and goes. It comes and goes. Like the mind is changing. It's happy. Okay, so that moment it's happy. Again it's sad. So that experience comes and goes, comes and goes. In the background, it is like we can feel that it is not happening. Sadness is not happening continuously. Happiness is not happening continuously. It is going our moment, and next moment something else. Next moment something else.
Okay. Anyone else?
So we're watching like a day and night.
Anyone else?
Swamiji, since that we are identified with the body, at the same time we are learning who we are, who is watching this is happening. So that's why we are dumb. Like, we are sort of caught up into, like Nagaraj said, we are enjoying, we are sad, we are upset and all those sort of things. But who is really the enjoyer? Who is really the sad person? That also we are understanding through the teaching and through the...
No, I'm talking about understanding here. The topic is not understanding. Topic is the two birds. The absolute reality and the individual reality. Can you see that happening at this moment? Are you aware that these two are there?
Yes.
What is the relative one bird? The relative one, it keeps jumping from fruit to fruit.
Fruit to fruit, yeah.
So we are jumping from object to object, we are jumping from word to word, we are jumping from understanding to understanding, we are jumping from waking dream, deep sleep, waking dream, deep sleep, isn't it? Continuously that is going on.
Yeah.
That is the relative one.
Yeah. And who is watching that also, that is the real one.
That is the real one. So do we know that waking dream, deep sleep are coming and going every day? Yes. Who knows that one is the real one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So these two are there with us all the time. They are there with us. We are alone are playing those two roles.
Yeah.
So which one are you choosing to be? The one which is hopping from object to object, or that one which is the constant one? Undisturbed, unentangled. When we come to Mundaka Upanishad, then we'll look at this in detail. Once again, one bird, the relative subject, hops from fruit to fruit, tastes, enjoys and suffers. And the second one, the absolute subject, sits quiet, observing the experiencer, the experienced fruit and the experience. Meaning, the observer, the absolute subject, it is observing, it is illuminating, it is watching, it is witnessing what? The Triputi. It is watching the Triputi, it is not only watching the waker. No, it is watching the waker, the waking world and the waking experience. It is watching the dreamer, the dream world and the dream experience. It is watching the experiencer, experienced and the experiencing. So the absolute subject is observing the triad. The relative subject, he is not observing the triad because he is attached to the object. He is given a sense of reality to the object and therefore is going from one job to why? I think this will give me satisfaction, this will give me happiness, this will give me joy, this will give me sukha. Whereas the absolute subject, it's not even eating, no fear of death, no fear of survival. Why? Not identified. And only when we are disidentified from everything, then alone we experience maximum bliss, deep sleep. Imagine how will it be, what will be the scope of bliss, if I can use that word, scope, when we abide in the self. Unbroken, infinite, continuous, homogeneous, conscious bliss. सुन के ही आनंद आ जाता है कि अच्छा, and then we start doubting, अच्छा मैं वो हूँ क्या? नहीं यार, I am. That we are. So the relative subject, the experience has also become the object for the absolute subject. So for the absolute subject, the relative object, the relative subject and the instrument of knowing all have become
Absolute.
all have become objects of observation. This is from point of view of being a witness.
Yeah.
Because that absolute, he is watching the other bird now on the tree, what the other one is doing. Just like a mother watches the baby, whatever, her attention is there. She may not be disturbed or she is not running after the kid, but she knows what the kid is doing. The pseudo-relative subject cannot succeed in meditation by making the absolute subject the object of its meditation. So what is the pseudo-relative subject? What is the pseudo-relative? That idiot who seems to be there but is not there. That is the pseudo-relative. Who is the pseudo-relative? If a father sits in meditation, he can never meditate on the supreme reality. He will only meditate on the son or the daughter. If you are identified with the body and sitting in meditation to know the reality, you can only contemplate on the body. You cannot, don't disturb the screen. So if you go with body identification, into contemplation, body identification will keep pulling you down. You can never come to know the supreme reality that you are. If you think you are the mind and you want to know the supreme reality, still you will not be able to know, because mind aprapya manasa saha. If you think you are intellectual, okay, intellectual, mind, all one. If you think you go with this predisposition that I am a seeker and I want to know the truth, you can never come to know the truth, because you are so identified with seeking. So we should be ready to give up all identifications. We are ready to give up the jiva, we are ready to give up the jiva bhav. Nothing we are going to become. All becoming is always with respect to something. Where there is two, there is becoming. Self does not become, self is. And that I am. That I am. You all, whenever you say I am man. You chose I am, which is your natural state. You identified with the form and they say I am a man, I am a husband. I am identified with a woman, I am a husband. I am identified with wealth, I am rich. I am identified with Australia, I am an Australian citizen. But I am is the constant. Don't allow it to get associated with anything. For that, so that is your natural state, that is your natural position even right now. Become convinced of this first and then support it with your Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyati Para to dissolve the mind, to dissolve this relative subject. And as the mind purifies from Vaikhari to Madhyama to Pashyanti to Para, then subject is one. It is appearing as two. One is the witness, the absolute one, and one is the relative one. Suddenly you realize, array, you are the absolute one, undisturbed. You are witnessing whatever is going on. At the japa level. And when at that time how this absolute one is one without a second, with that understanding we continue doing the japa, or the japa will conclude, it will dissolve, that is what it is. When it goes from Vaikhari, gross to subtle to causal to transcendental. That means you are going beyond words, you are going beyond understanding, you are going beyond concepts. That which is self-illumined, which is totally independent, can that be illumined by anything else? Can any other authority try to establish its existence? Is it possible? No. And therefore it is self-effulgent, self-illumined, self-knowing. This subject that I is does not depend on any object. It is self-determined, self-existing and self-effulgent. It doesn't need, because scriptures say therefore truth is. No. Scriptures are because it is. So, in this way, contemplate. Verily, everything shines after him. This whole world is illumined by his light. Once the object is dropped and one turns inwards and reaches the correct destination of the subject, thereafter, even the word subject has got no meaning. If your vision, instead of illuminating the world, is trying to illuminate the eyeballs themselves, and it is not possible, but in that process, its the attention from illuminating the whole world also is withdrawn. This happens. Your ears are continuously listening. When ears learn to listen to their source, then outside sound will not affect the eardrum. It will not affect the eardrum. These are stages that come when we withdraw. Thereafter, even the word even the correct destination. So when we become focused on the self, the subject itself, who is this who is thinking? Who is this who is meditating? Who is this who is speaking? Who is this who is listening? Then that becomes more important than what is listened to. Then that becomes more important than what is spoken. It's happening automatically. Thereafter, even the word subject has got no meaning. In the same way, once the words Sat, Chit and Ananda have been used to negate their opponents, thereafter no purpose is served in calling Sat as Sat, because other than Sat there is nothing else. Other than Sat there is nothing else. And that I am, because that's your subjective realization. That is your subjective state. That's what you really are. There is neither the necessity nor the possibility for any authority to determine our own essential nature. To be in this state continuously is meditation. So in this way, being yourself, knowing yourself and being yourself is one and the same. And let that knowing not happen through thoughts. It should be thought-free knowing that I am. Then knowing is being, then Sat is Chit, and when knowing and being come together, then I'm just saying it in these words because these are all beyond the words. Then the true Ananda expresses. What is the Shakti? What is the potentiality? Shiva's potentiality is Shakti. Shakti is Ananda. Shiva knows that he is. And when he knows he is, knowing and being, Sat and Chit come together, I know myself, the resultant is the potentiality, which is the Shakti. In our case, it will be the mind. That is our potentiality. And what it should think, whatever the mind is doing, is the expression of the mind that of Ananda? Is every thought that is coming, is it an expression of Ananda or is it an expression of frustration? Prakriti or Shakti, when she expresses, her expression from zero to Trigunatmika, from Trigunatmika she keeps multiplying. Is it out of frustration or is it out of Ananda? It's out of ananda. So, with joy she expresses, with joy she collapses back. With joy she expresses, with joy she collapses back. So everything, when she is doing it with joy, then every activity that is there is also an expression of joy. If that is where we have to reach, then let's start doing every activity with joy. Let it not with joy, let it be an expression of joy. Because we are Ananda Swarup. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.